Okay. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Good. Yourself?
Good. Hey, let's take a few minutes and talk about right tool for the job. Here we talk a lot about, what software do we want to use. Um, I'm going to, share a presentation with you, and hopefully you'll be able to see it.
Yep.
And can you see it now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so then let me go into um, the presentation, and I'll put it in full screen mode, and you should be able to see the whole screen now,
Looks
right?
good. Yes.
Awesome, good. Hey, we're going to talk about all the different pieces of software that Dublin offers, and we'll talk a little bit about, how we can use each one maybe, and take a look at, since there's a lot of it, we'll try to get through it pretty quick.
Good.
Go ahead and let's start about a little bit about word processing.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's we have multiple pieces of software to do basically the same thing. Really, there's but in reality, each of these pieces of software, in this case, word processing, Pages, which is Apple's word processing, Word, which is Microsoft Office, part of that suite, and Google Drive. They all kind of represent different things that you can do with it. Personally, I like using Pages because Pages offers you a lot of different, page layout possibilities that you don't get in the other ones. But that's not to say I don't use the other two. So, and I think on the next slide we'll talk about some of the pros and the cons of each one. But yeah, so why would you choose one over the other? And I just said for Pages, if I'm going to do a lot of heavy-duty page layout type of stuff, creating handouts, things like that, I'll use Pages because it just gives you more options. Plus, it links with my iPhoto account, and I can put my pictures in directly from iPhoto. Word, again, that's kind of like the standard. One of the things that's tough about Word is that it's got a lot of options, and it can kind of, almost too many options might be a bad thing. Google Drive, really, Google Docs out of Google Drive. The great thing there is that, for instance, you and I can collaborate on the same document at the same time, which you can't really do with Pages or Word.
Yeah, a couple things just to think about. If you're a Pages user, be careful because some of the computers in the district are at a higher level operating system-wise than others, so you might see different versions of Pages. So that's one of the things that's making people hesitate. One hint to them is to make sure that every time they're going to move from one device to another is to make sure that they export it out or save it down as a Pages 09 document. Then it can open up on any device that they get. The other thing is Microsoft Word, because it's an Office product, we noticed that it goes home to parents really well.
Yeah.
So you could send home Word, and they typically have the ability to get those types of things open. So those are a couple things to think about with word processing. As far as presentations go, Keynote, PowerPoint, and Google Drive Slides are pretty much the three pieces of software that we ask our kids and teachers to use. Again, Keynote is Mac software, so it's installed on our Mac computers. PowerPoint is Office, pretty universal and pretty, pretty expected in the business world. People can make a PowerPoint presentation. But I really like Google Slides, and the presentation we're looking at right now is a Google Slides presentation. And it's not really flashy, but the nice thing is that we could work together on this presentation.
Right.
And you could make a couple slides, and I could make a couple slides, and we could use the same layout. We don't have to copy and paste and do all that kind of stuff to make it into one presentation. So, depending on what you're looking at, some of the kids love going to Keynote, man. If you give the kids a choice, it seems like they always go into Keynote because it's really clean, it's really flashy, it's got great transitions, and PowerPoint, again, because it's Office, goes home pretty easily to parents and is pretty universal.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think the one thing that's really nice about Keynote is it may not be able to open up its own different versions of Keynote, but you can open up Keynote and then work on a Microsoft PowerPoint presentation within Keynote. And so that's one of the advantages that Keynote has over the others. And the other thing is it's really easy to create a video out of a presentation using Keynote.
Oh, that's a good point.
So you can create some slides, make some voiceovers, put some background music in, and then export it as a movie, which is really nice. But I also like, okay, go ahead.
I was going to say that's a great idea, and I know we've got some teachers working on projects right now to make videos, and that way you can control what audio goes with which picture, and it works out really, really nice.
Okay. I was just going to say with Google Drive, again, the collaboration possibilities there. This slideshow that we're looking at right now is one that you and I created at the same time on different computers and in different parts of the district. So
yeah. Okay, so go ahead and talk about spreadsheets a little bit.
Yeah, spreadsheets. I think one of the things that I personally would like to see is kids actually becoming more comfortable and more familiar with spreadsheets. And we have 3 packages that allows you to do that. Numbers, which is a Mac product. Again, that's part of their old iWork suite. Excel, which is kind of the standard for spreadsheets. But and Google Drive has Sheets, which is free, and again, it's on the shared platform. Most of them kind of have some of the same capabilities. The formulas and functions are pretty much the same. So those are spreadsheets. So
one of the big things is when people talk about spreadsheets, man, Excel comes to the front all the time. Everybody loves Excel. It is the powerhouse. But numbers is one where I find a lot of teachers like numbers because you can take a little bit of data and create a graph and put them on the same page.
Right.
So your data is right next to the graph. And it works out really, really nice. And it's pretty easy for kids to manipulate. It seems a little bit more simply laid out.
Yeah.
So that's a good place. And Google Drive, again, because it's the shared platform, people can put all their data in together. You don't have to have one person be your data enterer. You can share that workload.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is that Google Drive has a number of add-ons for Sheets that add functionality that maybe the other 2 programs don't have.
Yeah, as far as doing data merges and things like that. Yeah, that's a good point. Screencasting is something that we do frequently in our jobs as TSTs. We talk a lot about how do I do something on the computer, and we do screencasting, which is capturing the computer screen while we can talk over top of it, that type of thing. QuickTime, most people don't realize that the QuickTime player does have recording capability.
Yep.
So you can record the screen or even part of the screen while you're doing talking over top of it. And you can also do simple audio recordings that way. So you could do just a simple audio recording and save it as a QuickTime file, and then that's what you would put into your Keynote to make that have audio on each slide. So that's a simple, free, easy way that people don't realize you can do that. But if you just go into QuickTime Player and look at the menus, it's pretty easy to figure out, actually. The other one is Camtasia, and I love Camtasia. I use Camtasia all the time when I put my tutorial videos together. The only problem with Camtasia is you're talking about $99 per computer. So cost-wise, it's not efficient for us to put it on every computer, but we do take advantage of that quite a bit.
So video, again, probably the standard that we're used to is iMovie. The thing that's nice about iMovie is that it integrates with iTunes, iPhoto, anything done in QuickTime. But the other video editing software pieces we have out there is Keynote, which allows you to export to video when you're, which we've talked about already, Camtasia, which we talked about already, and another one that we don't have on here, but we probably should, is Photo Booth. because you can actually create short videos in Photo Booth, and you can actually use green screen effects and things like that. And it's something that I've seen a lot of kids use, teachers creating like book talks. It just uses the video camera that's on the computer, and you pop up Photo Booth and you record, and that's a nice little piece that a lot of people aren't aware of.
Yeah, that's great. We didn't even mention Photo Booth, but yeah, the kids love it. So it's a good thing for them to go into. When we talk about preview, and really we should really call this, instead of preview, we should call it reading PDFs or working with PDFs. Preview is Apple's PDF reader, and what people don't realize is that there are annotation tools built right into Preview. So when you open up a photo or you open up a PDF, you have the ability to annotate it, put text right over top of something, or you can put shapes or arrows or things like that. It's really a powerful tool. The other PDF reader that's free is Adobe Reader, and there are times when Adobe Reader is better. There are some times when you have a form to fill out or something like that, and it needs Adobe Reader. But I think for the most part, teachers can utilize Preview to open PDFs and photos and do some annotation. The other thing that's really cool, and I've started using it over the last year or so, is that one of the annotation features in Preview is the ability to put on a signature. So you could put your signature right on forms that you need to send to somebody without having to use a scanner and printer to make that happen. You can do it right on your computer. That's a pretty cool feature.
It is. All right, photo. Now we have some of the ones in here. We've mentioned Photo Booth, but iPhoto, which is the Mac software, you can organize, edit iPhoto or photos in iPhoto pretty easily. The thing that we keep hearing rumors that they're going to somehow change iPhoto, and we're not sure what that's going to look like, but that's still there. It still allows you to keep and organize and edit your photos. Photo Booth we already talked about. It's not just for taking video, but also photos, thus the name Photo Booth. And the one that's Photoshop, which is not a free program, and kind of has a pretty extensive learning curve. And then also Preview, which we talked about before. You can crop, edit, resize photos within Preview pretty easily.
Yeah, that Photoshop I think is available at our high schools, but I don't think the middle schools and the elementaries have it, just because of the price involved with it. It's pretty expensive, and really you can do a lot of the editing things without actually getting into that much detail. Actually, there's some good online editors too if people are really curious. Audio. Like we mentioned earlier, QuickTime is a way to record audio. Remember that laptops and iPads and those types of things have microphones built into them, so you could utilize QuickTime to record audio. iTunes is Apple's organization of music. I don't use iTunes very much anymore because, I don't put CDs in the computer. Actually, some computers don't even have a CD drive anymore. So iTunes, I think, is losing its organization as far as me personally, but it does allow people to organize their music into playlists and put it into videos and things like that. So iTunes is still useful, but QuickTime allows you to edit, trim off, and things like that with audio files. So that's still something that people want to take a look at.
One of the things that I've seen people using QuickTime for is to actually record students reading, and then playing it back and listening for things like that.
So yeah, especially where kids over time.
It's really good to as for those who are teaching reading, to be able to hear how your students read.
Yeah, that's great suggestion. Browser wars. Which ones do you like?
I like them all, actually. Personally, I for a long time I was Safari, and you're going to pry Safari out of my cold dead hands. But lately, just because it was on the Apple, it was fast. You could sync your bookmarks through the iCloud. But Chrome, since we've become a Google district, I've made Chrome my default browser because that allows me to, for instance, it auto updates, but it also syncs between different devices. So if I create a bookmark and I've signed in to Google Chrome with my Dublin ID, and I create a bookmark, that bookmark will show up on any device that I log into Chrome on with my Dublin ID. So that's really especially good for students to be able to have those bookmarks travel around with them.
Absolutely, and Chrome is free, so they can install it at home. They can do all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And I still like Firefox too. I use it when I'm trying to rip videos off the internet. They've got some really great plugins that allows you to do some things like that.
Yeah, it allows you to bring them down and edit. Yeah, Firefox is, it's got its place. I don't use it very much, but it is, fairly good. And Chrome also has web apps that allow you to do things actually in the Chrome browser that act like applications that you would install on a computer.
Yep.
So I do use some of those Chrome web apps, and then they automatically show up again, no matter what computer I sit down. If I get into Chrome and get into my account, those apps come right over.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. Video conferencing. We use really two big video conferencing tools, but there's a few more. BlueJeans is a platform that we buy as a district so that we can do some class video conferencing. We do our Chinese broadcast of using BlueJeans, and we also are using BlueJeans in some classrooms where they're making a long-term connection to other districts. So we're doing some of that at the middle school level as well. The other is Google Hangout, and what you're seeing right now is a recorded Google Hangout called a Google Hangout on Air, where we can do a video conference and also display presentations and share our screen and do some things like that. So Google Hangout, it's free, easy to use. You'll also notice Skype being used. A lot of times we have authors that are willing to give us some time. So Skype's not on our list, but Skype is one where teachers use it to communicate with authors who have Skype accounts and are willing to come into the classroom.
Yeah. All right, so talks in here about multimedia. It says, what kind of projects do your students produce, and how do you choose which tool to use? And so that's kind of why we put this together here, because I think one of the things that we find in our jobs is that a teacher will have a special program that they're comfortable with, and so they'll say, okay, we're going to do a PowerPoint presentation, and it needs to be 12 slides long, and we need to have 3 types of transitions and this many pictures. And in reality, what having this wealth of applications should allow us to do is to provide students with choice. Do all students need to be the same project or use the same tool? And I think one of the things that if you've ever graded a multimedia project before and regimented how they are to be done, that could be very fatiguing for you as the grader, for you as the teacher, for you as someone who's assigning this task. You realize, oh, here I have 60 projects that all look the same, and it's hard to differentiate between the two. By allowing students to have choice, I can do a video here, or I can create a photo collage here, or something like that. That gives them choice. It gives them the option of being creative with what it is that they're learning.
So instead of defining, how many slides or how many videos or how many, transitions or all that stuff, sometimes we, say, hey, if you do all this stuff, you're going to get an A, and then the kids only do that. It doesn't allow them to really, take off with what they love and really demonstrate, what they know. a lot of times we should, maybe create a rubric of, this is what I want you to show me. Pick the tool. It doesn't have to be any specific tool, but find the tool that you like to use or you know how to use, and develop that project that way. So you're right. I think that getting away from everybody's going to do an iMovie today, it gives the kids some flexibility, and it also makes it variable for them to grade. So you do have to create the rubric, but at least it gives you some variance in what you're seeing.
Yep. I think we have some scenarios now. Yes.
Yeah.
So we put together these scenarios, and we kind of, if we were doing this class face to face, we'd ask you these, and we'd get together and talk about it, and everybody give their input, but you're just going to get ours. And so the first scenario is, you want your students to work in a small group to perform research on a given topic. Which tool or tools would you prefer that they use, and why?
So what do you think about that? I have my ideas. My bet is that they're a little different than yours, so go ahead and share a little bit with what you think.
Well, if it's research, of course, it's going to be, at least a good part of that's going to be online. And so, again, whatever browser you're comfortable with, but I do like the idea of using Chrome because, again, if you're doing research, you're going to be collecting a lot of links and you're going to be making bookmarks and things like that. The other thing that's really neat about Google Drive is that you can create a document that's shared with everybody, and within Google Docs, there's a research tool which gives you the opportunity to just have basically a Google search window open inside the document while you're creating the document. So it also cites, like if you were to drag a picture over, it would cite that picture. So that's kind of I like that little tool for doing research.
Nice. That is a good tool. And I think that small group working together, I think with Google accounts for all the kids, they can share the work with themselves and also share the teacher, so the teacher can see what they're actually doing, who's doing that work. So I think that's a good place to start. The next scenario, the students are trying to put together this presentation to convince the principal that they could wear shorts to school. Maybe with the weather turning, that they might want to start wearing shorts to school. Which tools do you prefer they use, and why? Again, I would imagine that they would start off being able to do some research as to how kids perform, if they're comfortable, that kind of stuff. So they're going to do a lot of different research. They'll use the internet, all that kind of stuff. But I think when it comes down to it, they'll probably want to not make a presentation like PowerPoint or Keynote. I would think that they'd want to have interviews with people. They'd want to have convincing, dialogue or whatever. My bet is that they'd want to use some video software, probably end up with iMovie or something like that to put together, a powerful presentation.
An option we didn't talk about here too, or in this video, but they could create a survey in Google Forms and present the results of that survey. Would be a nice little addition to that.
That would be great, yeah. Here's scenario 3. What do you think?
Your students are putting together a class newsletter. Which tools would you prefer they use, and why? Well, here I'm going to start off with probably I'd want to just create a folder and share it with the class in Google Drive, and they could put all of their articles in there. The nice thing about that is that you can have peer editing of the articles because they're in Google Drive and they're shared with everybody in the class. But then once you're going to create that class newsletter, I'd probably use a tool like Pages or Word because of the page layout capabilities, and also there's a number of templates, newsletter templates that are already done most of the work for you. And so you've got that template, and then you can just copy and paste the article from Google Drive into the Pages or Word document.
That is one thing we didn't talk about with Google Drive Docs, is that some of the layouts are not there. It's almost like a Word Lite. It doesn't have a two-column layout. It doesn't mean it's not going to have those things in the future, but for right now, you can't put yourself right into a two-column layout to make a newsletter. So either Pages or Word might be a better option. You're right. Scenario 4. Your students are comparing data about two different countries. Which tools would you use? If the students are working together, I would probably use Google Sheet and share the sheet between the people that are working so that as they do their research, they can put the data right into the spreadsheet and not have to get all the data to one person to do it. And so I'd probably use a Google Sheet shared, and then from there take it and make a graph maybe to explain it. So the spreadsheet would give them some graphing capabilities. They might be able to make a pie chart or something like that to go along with their data and make that comparison. The other thing about Google is Google does have some Google Maps, so they might be able to look at a map and put a picture of the different countries and where they are on their document as well.
Yeah, it's good.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. How about the last one? How about this?
You have a worksheet that you want your students each to fill out. What tools would you use and why? Well, this will give you a little idea of when we created the slideshow and how things have changed in the past 3 or 4 months. If I were going to do this now, I'd use something called Google Classroom, which allows you to create one worksheet and then share it out with each student so that they have their own worksheet. They could fill it out and then return it to you. So that would be one of the things I would do. Another thing that you could do is create the worksheet in Word or Pages and put it into the class files in the cloud, and they could access it that way.
True. This has changed literally in 5 months. We couldn't do this before, where you distribute that sheet and collect it very easily, that we could do right now. So that's sort of a shameless plug for those workshops that we do after school, those Google Classroom workshops. But it is pretty easy to use and gives a great way to organize some of the documents that you share and collect from kids. And also, you might want to demonstrate to kids, if you gave them a PDF, you might want to show them the annotation tools and preview or things like that, so that they could write right on the worksheet. If it wasn't in Word or if it wasn't in Pages, if it was a PDF, they could write right on top of it.
All right.
So those are some really good bits of information. I'm going to stop sharing that presentation. Hopefully it'll allow us to go back and take a look at the Hangout that we're in. Thanks for talking about this.
Sure.
I think the right tool for the job is we give a lot of options here in Dublin, and so it's nice if we have the ability to talk about when you might use which tool. Thanks for spending some time.
All right. We'll see you.
Okay. Bye now.